But believe it or not, my son was my best friend. I miss him a lot.
He paid.
But my whole thing is, my way of thinking is why I have Biggie even in LA after Tupac died.
What if the truth behind one of hip-hop's most infamous tragedies didn't die with Christopher Wallace, better known to the world as the Notorious B.I.G? What if, all along, the real ticking time bomb wasn't buried in a vault at a record label, but hidden in the final, unwavering words of his mother, Voletta Wallace? For over 3 decades, Voletta Wallace fought to protect her son's legacy, navigating a ruthless industry filled with sharks and opportunists. But in the final days of her life, before passing at the age of 78, she left behind something far more explosive than anyone expected, a document so potent, so radioactive, it threatens to blow apart the carefully constructed power structure of the music industry. This isn't just speculation. With the recent surfacing of her final will, questions are swirling. Was her last act simply to approve the lucrative primary wave estate deal, or was it to quietly insert hard evidence into the public record? Evidence that could finally answer the question haunting fans and insiders alike. Was Biggie's death truly a random tragedy, or the result of a calculated plot, fueled by ambition, betrayal, and the same forces that once catapulted him to global superstardom? Now, with Voletta Wallace gone and lawyers circling the Notorious B.I.G. empire like vultures, the industry is bracing for the impact of what may be the most damning revelation hip-hop has ever faced.
She mentioned my name. My fraternity brother, Bill Willard, was right there and said, yo, that's my fraternity brother, Gene Deal. I know him, I could call him right now. I went up to see Miss Wallace, brother. And she took me around her whole house and I seen the memorial of Big.
We need to talk about Voletta Wallace, not as the dignified matriarch we've seen in funeral tributes and Empire State Building ceremonies, but as a mother who spent every day since 1997 locked in a war she never asked for. She wasn't just Biggie's mom. She was the architect behind turning a $10 million inheritance into a 9-figure empire. She got his face on skyscrapers, dove into crypto before most music execs even knew what a blockchain was, and negotiated deals that would put even Snoop Dogg's merchandising empire to shame. If you think she was just a sweet old lady rubber stamping contracts, think again. Industry insiders say Voletta fought tooth and nail with the most powerful names in music, including some who weren't shy about making threats, both veiled and direct. And yet, in the final weeks of her life, she was crystal clear. The primary wave deal had to happen. She pushed it through, warning those closest to her that the stakes were bigger than anyone realized. I used to be hurt, said one confidant, because I knew the people around her. They were Puff's boys.
I used to be hurt because I knew the people that she had around her was Puff boys. So we could never connect like that. So only time I tried to connect with Miss Wallace is when she needed me and she used Perry Sanders to call me.
Why did Voletta Wallace, after decades of fiercely managing every facet of her son's legacy, suddenly moved to push through a major deal just weeks before her passing? According to Variety and the Wall Street Journal, this wasn't just another catalog sale. It was a fire sale done under mounting pressure. Primary Wave reportedly acquired 50% of the Notorious B.I.G.'s music, publishing, name, and likeness rights, with the total estate valued north of $200 million. But it's not just the numbers that have industry insiders sweating. It's what Voletta Wallace allegedly said in her final days that has raised alarms, possibly even red flags. According to a longtime estate confidant, Voletta left behind chilling claims implicating 2 of the most powerful figures in modern music, Sean Diddy Combs and JayZ. Not only were these moguls involved in the final round of estate negotiations, they were, in Voletta's own words, actively intimidating her. She told us, the source revealed, if anything happens to me, look at who stood to gain. Whether that's caution, paranoia, or a mother's sixth sense, it's impossible to ignore.
Like I told people, I said if Miss Wallace would have called me and told me to shut it down, I would have shut it down. Miss Wallace ain't called. She knew how to get in touch with me. If Miss Wallace didn't tell me to shut it down, I'ma keep doing it because I respect you, Miss Wallace.
Those close to the Wallace family whisper that Voletta wasn't just protecting her son's legacy. She was documenting everything, detailed notes, recorded phone calls, and most notably, a sealed envelope, to be opened only after her death. According to a former manager, that envelope contains records of threats, manipulation campaigns, and years of pressure tactics allegedly deployed by Sean, Diddy, Combs, and JayZ, all aimed at wresting control of Biggie's legacy. Let's not forget, it was Bad Boy Records that once tried to increase its publishing stake to 85%, but Voletta Wallace wouldn't back down. And in 2020, she clawed back the remaining 15%, cementing her control over her son's estate. For her, every deal was personal. It wasn't about the money. It was about protecting Biggie's memory and keeping the wolves at bay. In her final weeks, did those wolves seem more desperate than ever? One veteran insider, present in key negotiations, claims that things turned strangely hostile just after New Year's. The same rumor keeps surfacing. Diddy and Jay-Z wanted the estate deal closed fast, and they weren't afraid to use leverage. Was it about cashing out before Diddy's latest round of legal troubles exploded into the headlines? Was Jay-Z, the master chess player, just tying up loose ends before his next big power move? Or was it something far more dangerous? Did they both know that if Voletta Wallace kept digging, she might finally connect the dots between Biggie's unsolved murder and the real motivations behind the East Coast, West Coast power struggle? One thing is certain news of. The primary wave deal-breaking wide came just 1 week after Voletta's death, signed, sealed, and delivered with her hand. We're told, still guiding the pen.
We absolutely believe it was purposeful.
Do you have any suspect?
Well, being that we are not the authorities, the legal authorities.
What exactly did Voletta Wallace leave behind? The whispers say, explosive evidence, a phrase that has record executives reaching for antacids. According to a source familiar with the will, Voletta's final documents include transcripts of private meetings, copies of emails, and voice memos that don't just hint at legal maneuvering. They suggest real-world intimidation. The contents allegedly name names. And not just any names. Diddy, JayZ, and others who've long danced in the gray space between influence and power. And then there's the most chilling detail of all, a handwritten letter in which Voletta warns that if anything happens to her, her confidants are to release everything to the press. If this sounds like the script to a streaming true crime doc, you're not alone. The only thing missing is the Netflix logo. But unlike Hollywood fiction, these allegations come with stakes that extend far beyond TV ratings. In one moment, Voletta Wallace is being honored at the Empire State Building for protecting her son's legacy. In the next, we're hearing she was warning friends that danger was closing in. The timing is impossible to ignore. This is a woman who spent nearly 3 decades watching her son's murder remain unsolved, while the same names circled every theory, every deposition, every lawsuit. Diddy, JayZ, Suge Knight, and a handful of shadowy insiders who have long since faded from public view. Now, just as one of the most lucrative estate deals in rap history is finalized, she's gone. And what remains between the truth and the public eye? A manila envelope, sealed tight, full of secrets and maybe the answers we've been denied for nearly 30 years.
A hearsay situation over a 27-year-old case with a multimillionaire like Puffy that's going to have the best defense that money could buy. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Let's not lose sight of the context. Sean Diddy Combs is facing the fallout of years' worth of allegations, lawsuits, and an empire now teetering on the edge of collapse. Meanwhile, JayZ remains the undisputed king of business chess, present in the room for some of the most historic catalog deals in music history, including those of Queen, Bob Dylan, and even Michael Jackson's estate. With figures like $100 million being tossed around, the stakes couldn't be clearer. Control the rights, and you control the narrative, the money, and the future. For two men who built their legends on deal-making, bravado, and never blinking first, letting Voletta Wallace hold the final. Cards was never an option, and if the rumors are even half true, the negotiation tactics used went far beyond polite legal wrangling. We can't ignore the timeline. The pressure on Voletta to close the estate deal intensified not long after Diddy's legal scandals exploded, triggering an avalanche of accusations and a courtroom verdict that sent shockwaves from Los Angeles to Manhattan. One former road manager close to the situation claims the urgency wasn't about securing the best valuation. It wasn't about money, the source says. It was about silencing questions before they hit the mainstream. And those questions, he adds, weren't just for lawyers. They didn't want her talking to the FBI. Because in this business, the unspoken truth is clear. Most executives would rather lose millions than have federal agents start digging through old contracts.
Or not even fight for justice, pretty much, and hoping that the authorities would bring someone to, to responsibility.
The biggest wild card in this entire saga, Voletta Wallace's own chilling belief that her life was in danger, according to multiple estate insiders, 3. To be exact, she allegedly instructed her legal team to immediately distribute her evidence if anything suspicious happened to her. While that detail remains officially unverified, its repetition across independent sources is impossible to dismiss, and while no one from Diddy or JayZ's camps has publicly addressed the mounting allegations, the silence speaks volumes. Louder, even, than a block party in Brooklyn, Oh Here We Are, staring into a story that feels equal parts Shakespearean tragedy and LA Confidential moored on one side, a mother, still grieving after nearly 30 years, determined to make sure her son wouldn't become just another corporate asset on the other. 2 moguls, titans of the music industry, whose influence stretches from Wall Street to the White House, now seemingly scrambling to maintain control as the ground beneath them shifts. The world has always suspected that Biggie's murder was more than just a random drive-by. Maybe Voletta Wallace was the only one brave or reckless enough to leave the truth hiding in plain sight. What did she really know about that night in Los Angeles? What was she so afraid of in those final weeks? And is this the proof we've all been waiting for? That Christopher Wallace's death wasn't just a tragic loss for hip-hop, but the final move in a much larger, darker game.
But a lot of evidence points to it having been very much planned out.
The battle over Biggie's legacy has entered a volatile new phase. What once looked like business now feels more like a final standoff, desperate, calculated, and anything but clean. The Primary Wave deal wasn't just a financial move. It was the music industry's version of a land grab, signed in secrecy, just as Bleeda's health was in steep decline. The timing is impossible to ignore. Weeks before her death, 2 of the most powerful men in music, Diddy and Jay-Z, finalized a deal that handed them control. The music, the name, the image, the future. Publicly, it's been called a consolidation of influence. But behind closed doors, the whispers are far darker, with the estate valued north of $200 million and Biggie's cultural capital only growing. This was never just about profit. Some insiders suggest it was a scramble to tie off every loose end, or worse, an urgent effort to bury secrets before they could surface. The stakes come into sharp focus when you realize what's really at play. Yes, Primary Wave now manages legacies like Bob Marley, Whitney Houston, and Prince. But the Biggie deal stands apart. This isn't just about catalog rights. It's about controlling the narrative and perhaps erasing parts of the past. What changes everything is what Bleeda left behind. Her final will, now confirmed to contain sealed evidence, casts a long shadow over everyone involved. Sources say it goes far beyond accusations of business manipulation. It reaches into the darker corners, the ones that have always loomed around Biggie's fate. Now, with the truth locked away and pressure mounting, the question is no longer who owns the legacy, but who's trying to hide from it.
I knew that somebody was going to that night. Somebody was going to get shot.
This is where Voletta's will stops being just a legal formality and becomes a weapon. According to a former estate accountant, its contents could implicate not only business partners, but an entire ecosystem. Handlers, lawyers, and executives who all had something to gain by keeping Biggie silent. There are whispers of handwritten notes detailing a timeline of intimidation, phone records tracing back to powerful figures on both coasts, and ominous messages warning that the truth will surface, no matter what. This isn't just tabloid fodder. This is the kind of material that could spark criminal investigations, lawsuits, and reputational fallout capable of toppling empires. With Valletta gone, the last line of defense between the truth and oblivion lies in the hands of those she trusted. Will her final evidence ever reach a courtroom? Or will it disappear into the black hole of NDAs and sealed settlements? Insiders are already hinting at legal challenges. Journalists are circling. Rival moguls are quietly bracing for impact. A former bodyguard of Diddy's even alleged that Wayne Barrow and Mark Pitts, both long affiliated with Puff, began working deals to sell off Biggie's publishing, branding, and rights soon after his death. A detail that might seem minor, until you notice how often the same names resurface wherever money and motive collide. A.S. Biggie's estate enters a new era. His legacy hangs in the balance. Will his children, his fans, the public ever get real answers? Or will the past remain locked behind the velvet ropes of power, protected by silence and sealed files? Each new attempt to uncover the truth is met with more erasure, more NDAs, more deleted emails. We've seen how legendary estates navigate these waters. Queen's billion-dollar valuation, Bob Dylan's record-breaking deals, but none of them carry the same level of personal intrigue. None of them have this haunting sense that the music was just a mask for something much darker. And so, with every mural and every tribute, the celebration grows more bittersweet, because behind the beats and rhymes lies a story that someone desperately wants buried.
She was, I think, understanding clearly what had happened, and I think she was starting to see that other people were responsible than who she previously had believed.